Welcome back. This is Mid Morning, and I'm going to read a bit of the memorandum on the objects of the Basic Education Law Amendment Bill 2021. And just a bit of background. In 2013, the Minister of Basic Education instructed a task team to review the basic education legislation as a strategic priority of the Department of Basic Education. The task team identified the South African Schools Act of 1996 and the Employment of Educators Act as needing amendment. The draft Basic Education Law Amendment Bill was published for public comment under the government notice there. They give you the Gazette number. Proposed to amend the South African School Act and the Educators Employment of Educators Act as to align them with the developments in the education landscape to ensure that the systems of learning and excellence in education are put in place in a manner which respects, protects, and promotes and fulfills the rights of basic education enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. Another of the aim was to bring about certain technical and substantive adjustments in the South African School Act as well as the Employment of Education Act to clarify existing provisions and to insert certain provisions to cover matters which are not provided within the existing legislation. It's a long memo in terms of that, but suffice to say so, the bill was then it was then amended, and it seeks to insert and amend certain definitions to provide attendance of grade R is compulsory, to amend the penalty provision, prevents a learner who is subject to compulsory attendance from school, and to create an offence in respect of interruption, disruption, hindrance of school activities, to enhance the authority of the head of department in relation to admission of a learner to a public school after consultation with the school governing body, to provide that the governing body of a private school must submit the admission and language policies of the public school to the head of department for approval. So the amendment is quite comprehensive. If you go to the Department of Education website, you'd be able to then get the memo on the objectives as well as the Bella Bill and what has been amended. So now there are many talking points, and as I indicated, I wanted to get the viewpoint and comment from the Department of Education, but nobody was available now due to being the festive season to comment. But there's also concerns now in many questions with regard to those parents that elect to homeschool their children. So I just want to know, what are the implications? What is the feeling now? And has the process changed in terms of informing the department of a parent's intention to homeschool their child, as well as is now the curriculum for homeschooling going to be prescriptive? That means the department will say you can only use ABC curriculum that probably align to the current revised CACS curriculum, or do parents have the freedom and the liberty to choose the type of approach and the type of curriculum in which they want to school or even unschool? Because some parents choose to unschool their children. So what leeway do parents have, and what's the implication? To help us understand and make sense of this, we have a very, very experienced and knowledgeable person in the form of Mr. Bouwe van der Eems, who is the chairperson of the Pestalozzi Trust, as well as being a homeschooling parent from 2000. He and his wife Debbie. They have the homeschooling website that they oversee, the SA Homeschoolers website, and they've been a support for parents that want to homeschool their children. So let's welcome Mr. Bouwe van der Eems to Mid Morning Talk. Good afternoon, good morning, Bouwe, and welcome to Mid Morning Talk.
Good morning, Mariam. Thank you for the opportunity. It's very nice talking to you.
So tell me, now that I know the Pestalozzi Trust was basically created in response to some of the amendments, or even at that time when the task team was sent to look at various alliance, various parts or amend them of the South African Schools Act. And one of them was the homeschooling issue, as well as I know the curriculum was set to be then very prescriptive in terms of what the department will expect of parents in terms of aligning it with the CAPS curriculum. So now that this is promulgated into law, it's been amended in that. In terms of implications for homeschooling, what are the implications now for homeschoolers in that regard, in terms of this, and also the process? Has it changed in terms of how you inform the department from grade R that you wish to undertake and be the custodian of your child's education?
Good. Yes, Mariam, thank you for the question. I think it's important that it must be clarified that the law has not changed. So the Minister of Education has drafted the law, and a draft law is called a bill. That's why it's called the Basic Education Law Amendments Bill. And then that bill is submitted to Parliament. So what this memo means is that the bill has been submitted to Parliament, and then it will go through a process in Parliament. And only when Parliament has approved it, and that can take 2 or 3 years, will it go to the President for signature. And only once the President has signed the bill will it become law, and it will be enforceable on parents. So as it stands now, nothing has changed. The existing SA School Act is still the law according to which you should operate. So, and we will continue, the Pestalozzi Trust will continue to oppose with the conditions in those laws that restrict the freedoms and the liberty of home educators. The other thing I just want to clarify is that the Pestalozzi Trust has been established already in 1999. So we are, or 1998, we are already 21 years old. And we've been established to protect the freedom when the first SA Schools Act was promulgated.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, if you can just maybe explain to our parents. I know many parents are thinking or considering homeschooling. What is the process if you have a child entering now grade R or grade 1 and you'd like to homeschool them, or maybe they're now going to high school, so they've been in a public school, they've completed grade 7, and now from grade 8 they would like their child to be homeschooled for the duration of their senior secondary and junior secondary. So what is the process? You can respond after the break.
Thank you.
Have now reopened on 235 Matthews Maiwa Road in Durban. Head on over for the Taste with Kick. We offer something scrumptious for everyone in the family. Wraps, chicken tikka, burgers, tender grills, mocktails, milkshakes, and so much more. Corporate and events catering available. Visit our social media pages for more info or call 031 209 0119. Kiki's, the Taste with Kick.
Little bare feet on the icy wet ground, a shiver at his lips, mud on his clothes. When he is cold, the hunger is worse, the nights are longer, and the pain is more severe. What if this was your child? The Al-Imdad Foundation's Global Winter Appeal allows you to make a difference for refugees, IDPs, and struggling communities in 21 countries globally. Sponsor a winter pack today for just 600 Rand. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243.
For a long time, we've lived in a centralized world, where institutions held the all-important data and confirmed all transactions. Those times are over. Welcome to Libertas Group, a blockchain development company boasting an ecosystem that continually redefines the way we do business. Our blockchain is decentralized, making it immune to hacking or alteration, putting the power back in your hands with no middleman, so you can focus on the growth of your business. Libertas, the simplest investment choice you make.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Bouwe Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Bouwe Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Your act of love gives hope. Islamic Relief supports orphans and vulnerable children in 28 countries with food, education, and medical care. There are more than 150 million orphans in the world. You can give hope to one. Sponsor an orphan today. Go to www.islamic-relief.org.za.
Salam Media, a global voice for humanity.
Welcome back. You're tuned into Mid Morning Talk only on Salam Media, and we are joined by Mr. Bouwe van Els, and he is the chairperson of the Pestalozzi Trust, very experienced and knowledgeable and informed homeschooling parent who has been homeschooling his children along with his wife Debbie since 2000. And I asked him before the break in terms of what is the process in terms of informing the department if you wish to homeschool your child, maybe at the point of entry, which is grade R, maybe through in between while you're in primary school, or if your child now is going to high school and you'd like, now she was in a public school and now you'd like to move over to homeschooling, what is the process?
Yes, thank you very much. The first thing is when is it important to sort of register for home education? As it stands now, it is from grade 1 up to the age of 15 or grade 9, whichever is first. And so you don't need to register when you grade R. That will only be required when the new law is signed by the president. So for now, that is not necessary. When you decide to home educate, I think let's look at primary school now. I think you must first know that home education is different from school education, where school education is a uniform form of education. Home education is diverse. So you can choose from a diverse number of curriculums and education approaches. So you must then do your research of how do you want to educate your children? What values do you transfer to your children? And what curriculum will work for you and your family? So it will require quite of education of the parents to start off with. And it's often daunting for parents to do all those things because there's so much information. And to help you with that, there are homeschool consultants, there are support groups that can yet answer those questions. The other thing is make sure you can homeschool with peace of mind. So you've got to make a decision about registration. How do you want to register? Will you give away some of your rights and the freedoms if you register? That is where the Pestalozzi Trust is there. We will guide you with regulatory affairs and advise you how you can register without giving away any of your rights and freedoms. And when you're a member, you've got an emergency number that you can phone. So you can focus on your home education and there's an emergency number you can phone when a conflict situation with authorities.
Bouwe, before you continue, can you maybe delve into this, what you said, that how to register without giving away some of your rights or liberties? What do you mean by this? Is there a certain, annexure in the form that you need to acknowledge that you will do certain things which then constricts a parent? So if you can just explain to parents who are listening out there, what does that mean in terms of there is support in terms of ensuring you're not giving away any of your rights or liberties?
Yeah, so for example, if you, they will require you to provide assessment results at a certain frequency, maybe once a quarter, maybe once a phase or whatever. Now, currently, the law doesn't require you to do that. That's only, that is what's been envisioned in the new law. But if, now, let's say you follow an education approach that is totally different from CAPS. How are they going to evaluate that? So let's say you get it, and that has happened. The parents get letters saying, please provide these assessment results, and then they specify the subjects. What do you do if the subjects are different from what you're following? So you must be careful when you submit your forms or when you inform the government that you are homeschooling, to ensure that you're not giving away those rights in the way that you notify the government of your intention to homeschool. And there are various ways to do that, and we guide you with that.
Okay, and then so in terms of the process, if you become a member of the Pestalozzi Trust, then I suppose you have a good support system in terms of all the bureaucracy and all the red tape surrounding informing the government of your intention to homeschool.
Exactly, yes. So you become a member, and then you get an emergency number. So and you can contact us when you need advice on regulatory affairs.
Okay, and then so there, I mean, the process. I think so. If parents intend homeschooling their children, number one is the registration. Then, as you've said, I mean, you have many curriculums, approaches that you can decide. So you need to read, you need to inform yourself, you need to research, and you don't necessarily have to call social science. There are different subjects, so you can move away from traditional South African type subjects if you so wish.
Exactly. So a curriculum, okay, you've got curriculums, and a curriculum, the traditional curriculum divides knowledge into subjects and grades. But there are other approaches that do it totally different. So let's say unit studies. You take a topic, some story about some event, and you look at the historic aspects of the topic. You look at the geographic aspects. You look at the moral aspects. You look at the economics. You look at whatever. It's a different way of approaching knowledge. And
so basically, I'm thinking of, let's say, the tsunami that happened. So you look at the tsunami, and then you look at the geographic aspect, the scientific aspect, the historical. I mean, the effect it had in terms of the psychology, in terms of how it affected people's daily lives, the economics. So would that then characterize as unit studies?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent example. A tsunami and everything around the tsunami, and that's how real life is. You are in a situation, and every situation has got different aspects that you've got to consider to make a decision about the situation. So that's a reaction to the problem with our traditional curriculum, where you divide knowledge into subjects and grades.
So this is, and then tell me what, in terms of those parents then who elect to entrust or get somebody to facilitate the homeschooling center. So basically those homeschooling tutorial centers. I know the contract is between, with the government, it's between, or even with certain of the curriculums that you think is between the parents and the child. But then sometimes parents, for whatever reasons, they feel maybe they don't have sufficient subject knowledge in various subjects in it, and then they elect to send their children to these homeschooling tutorial centers. In terms of that, what is your feeling around there, and what are the pros and cons of electing then to send your child out into small centers, home tutorial centers?
Okay, So the definition of home education is when the child receives his or her education at his or her own home. So obviously, you might make use of additional services from tutors to assist you with that if you cannot do everything yourself, and send the children to extra classes at some tutorial centers. And there's no problem with that as long as the child receives most of his education at his or her own home. That will be considered home education. But when you send the child to that center to receive all the education at their center, that will not be considered as home education anymore, and authorities will require those centers to register as private schools if they provide the full education to their children.
Okay, so currently there's a gray area in terms of those centers, because I know many of them are using homeschooling syllabus and they're marketing themselves as homeschooling tutorial centers. But as you say, if they are receiving majority of their education at the center, is that something the department is looking at in terms of changing the legislation, whether it's a small environment or huge environment, in terms of those won't be considered homeschools?
The problem is no. So you are absolutely right. Those small centers are living in a grey area, and the Pestalozzi Trust also assist those small centers to get acknowledged by law. But in terms of the current law, there is no acknowledgement of those small centers that are too small to register as a private school or operate totally different from a private school. So there's a gap in the law that doesn't accommodate all these emerging, what they call, education modalities. And then there's also other situations where parents cooperate with each other or collaborate with each other. Let's say you've got 10 families and they send the children to maths to the one parent 1 day a week, and for science to another parent for 1 day a week, something like that. That is called collaborative home education. The law doesn't make provision for that. So there is, apart from a diversity of curriculums that you can choose from when you home educate, there's also a diversity of educational forms, and our SA Schools Act doesn't accommodate that. And that is also a problem with the Bella Bill. It entrenches what we call the binary systems, only homeschooling or school education. And all those various permutations in between are not accommodated by our regulatory framework. So we need a radical change of the regulatory framework to accommodate the diversity that we see in education. And especially over the pandemic, all those new, what we call emerging modalities have exploded, and there's a big need of it. And those organizations do yet excellent work, but the law doesn't acknowledge that. And unfortunately, also the new Bella Bill also doesn't accommodate that. It just entrenches the old system.
Yes, because as you correctly said, it's a very binary sort of approach in this. It's either or. So basically, homeschooling, you need to register, but it's being prescriptive. We have public schools, and if that doesn't satisfy you, then go to a private school, which operates very much in terms of approach, and that like a public school with additional resources. Where government is lacking, basically you pay the money, you're going to get those beautiful sports fields, you're going to get the smart boards, you're going to get all those additional educators, human resource, as well as teaching resources and aids as well. So basically that's what an independent school is. But as you've said, because for me the collaborative modality is gaining momentum. I know many parents, those that are like accountants, they've said, okay, I will do the accounting, the business, this on this day there. I'm a historian, I'm an educator, or I'm a mathematician, statistician. And also what I like is many fathers are now getting involved. I think COVID has been a silver lining in terms of parents have become actively involved, because children were studying online. They got to see what books they're doing, what they're learning, and thus more than that, they seen the flaws in the education system. So basically, it wasn't even educators to blame. Previously, we thought educators are not doing enough, but they also working within a system that is flawed. So parents have a greater understanding, and many have thought, you know what, I can do this myself. If we are maybe 5 or 6 families that get together, we can time manage, and our kids will have the best of everybody and the best perspective. And as you say, this collective modality is gaining momentum. And I think it's time now that the department really looks at it. And as you say, a task team needs to be set up for a radical look at education and what we deem as education. Because ultimately, for me, in my studies, I've majored in the old days when you had education 1, 2, 3. So I've majored in education, and the definition was education is to lead a child towards responsible adulthood. So it's not about your learning content per se, or what being prescriptive of learning content, but at the end of the day, you need a child that's going to be responsible, that's going to contribute positively to society in whichever field they choose to do so.
Exactly. So that is why we had a meeting with the minister in January 2020, and we were given the opportunity to make some submissions. And one of the submissions the Pestalozzi Trust was making is a proposal to regulate the diversity of educational forms outside the SA Schools Act. Because what we've got now is we've got a right to education in the Constitution, but that right to education is then regulated through a Schools Act that assumes that education can only be provided by schools. And then they've made the small exception of home education. But education is much more than just schools. So, so our proposal is regulate education outside the Schools Act, have an Education Act that regulates the various forms of education, of which school is one of them, and schools then can be regulated by the Schools Act. So that is, I think, is a solution that can prepare our country for the 4th industrial revolution, because our current education system is designed around the 2nd industrial age, the factory age. But we're now living in the 4th industrial age that requires a totally different education system, but we sit with the education law that's still stuck in the 2nd industrial age.
I love chatting to you, and I'd like to chat to you in the new year as well, in terms of just have conversations, these conversations on education, the different modalities and type of education systems. And there's just a lot for parents to think about. I mean, you've given us lots of options and food for thought, and empowered and informed us in terms of our options. And please, parents out there, have a look at the Pestalozzi Trust website, as well as SA Homeschooling website. And I'm sure your contact details will be on the SA Homeschooling website, Bouwe.
Yes, sahomeschoolers.org.
Thanks so much. And on there, I've been on there, really, it's a whole dimension of so much support and information that if you feel daunted, really in a day or two, you'll be able to navigate and familiarize yourself. And in fact, if you've got children that are older, you will think, you know what, I've really done a disservice to myself in terms of how limited my child's education has been, because education is all around us, learning is all around us, and practical learning really is what is going to hold our children in good stead. Thanks so much. Enjoy your break over the season here, and we wish you all the best for 2022, and hopefully we can catch up and talk to you again in 2022. Good morning. We still morning. Good morning, and enjoy the next 2 weeks of rest and relaxation.
Thank you very much, Mariam. It was really a privilege to talk to you. I really enjoyed it. I hope we'll talk again.
Definitely. We're going to take a short break, and when we get back, we are going to talk about the hyacinths that are taking over Hartepus. For them, they are invaders and alien to that part. All this, we're going to learn more about this all after the break, only on Salam Media.